Hey everyone, before I get started, I just want to remind you that if you like my content, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and then join the Militia Man and Crew Patreon community by clicking the link in the caption. Hey, good evening everybody, Militia Man and Crew. Just want to say hello, and one more time, good evening. Hey, listen, Militia Man and Crew have quite a few articles. Sorry I missed you guys yesterday. I was planning on doing a video, but it didn't quite work out that way. It's got many issues, but the fun part is that I have a bunch of data, and I'm just going to go through some of the stuff that you probably already read in our Patreon room and in the news. So if you guys are following along, you're probably going to already know some of this. But here's an article that says, "For my center announces progress in the measures to control the dollar." So it's the central bank has announced. They have procedures for controlling foreign transfers, sales of cash, dollars, providing protection for the banking and financial sector from money laundering risk, all that stuff. It says the following ongoing talks of the Central Bank of Iraq with the Federal Reserve and the U.S. Treasury Department. That's who's talking tonight. They said the relations that they've had led to an agreement on procedures and formulas that are commensurate with the best practices of international standards, the latest of which was the plan to regulate external transfers by rebuilding them according to new standards and methods. So something's going on that's a little bit different for the country, but it's obviously for what? Having an internationalism situation. So it says that there are procedures and formulas that are being used for instrumental in Iraq's status that would be likely for exposure to the Forex, as far as I could tell. And who else? The world. If you go to the Forex, the world's going to be able to embrace your currency. Here's an article that says, by the end of the year, Iraq will adopt an advanced trade finance system. Okay, what are they talking about? Iraqi trade banks, private banks, adopt an advanced trade finance system by the end of this year. By the end of this year, they didn't say at the end of this year. They're saying they're working on it, or they have been working on it. It's expected that by the end of the year, there will be a transition to another more advanced and accurate system to enhance control over foreign transfers. It says here, there's new system will depend on correspondent banks instead of the current mechanisms. In other words, probably not the CBI, as each bank will have the ability to conduct transfers according to the capabilities and possession of correspondent accounts. Whether in American banks or other banks that provide transfer services in different currencies. That's big, you guys. It says that they remain the same till now, with the public and merchants wishing to transfer, as the requirements will not change significantly, so pretty much the same. But the accuracy of the transfer operations will improve through the activation of control systems, regulations that are imposed by the correspondent banks, not by the central bank. That's how I see it. It says this transformation will increase public confidence in the Iraqi banking sector, as local banks will adhere to the instructions and mechanisms of international correspondent banks. International correspondent banks. Beautiful. Which will enhance work within strict international systems and agreements. That's pretty good, you guys. I think that's stuff that we just want to pay attention to, is because Iraq is going to be exposed to the international world. That's what they're talking about. Okay, Minister of Commerce, the government has developed a roadmap for developing the national economy. These reforms, well, wait, back up. It says that the government has begun implementing economic reforms through new legislation, noting that many laws have been sent to the House of Representatives for approval already. Okay, so these reforms represent a reform revolution that the Iraqi people may not notice at the present time, but it will soon become clear to citizens and businessmen alike and project owners. That means not only the business, but project people that are coming in and doing projects. It's going to be a reform revolution, if you will. Okay. They say that the government has taken new regulatory steps through the Ministry of Commerce law, which allows for the issuance of accurate and clear data, which helps in setting a roadmap for local and international businessmen and investors. Again, businessmen and project owners. Sounds like a revolution is here, and maybe it's going to blow everybody's minds, because you think about it, building a country from From north to south, it's going to be a lot of work. 15 cities. I mean, they got the Port of Fa, they got 5 berths, they got all these different things. Okay, here's another article that's fascinating. It's called "The Trade Bank of Iraq Opens an Office on the Oil Marketing Company Headquarters." The Iraqi Trade Bank announced the opening of an office at the headquarters of the Iraqi Oil Marketing Company. That's called SOMO, S-O-M-O. The office has started its work, according to the statement. It says, as of Wednesday, they will provide banking services related to issuing documentary credits to facilitate all transactions between the oil marketing company, which is SOMO, and the bank regarding the export and import operations of all petroleum products. All of this which contributes to supporting the national economy, developing the energy sector, which is considered one of the main drivers of the Iraqi economy. I think you're going to see there's going to be some talk about non-oil revenues, but look, the TBI opened the office at the headquarters of the oil marketing company. To me, this is an announcement telling the world that oil is about to flow. The Siam port, it's already flowing, but there's stuff that's been shut down, so we'll see how this goes. But ultimately, the non-oil revenues, the electronic systems in place, the people haven't been flooded into the banks, as you guys really know, but the citizens have been flooding into the banks, and they showed documentation of that in the last week. We went over it. I'm not going to go over that again. But ultimately, we all know that Iraq is about to take her place in the international financial system. Millions of people are going to be affected. It's really big. Kuwait supports the Iraqi development project. Isn't that nice, right? Remember the Kuwait conference? They had 33 million. Well, you're going to see in one of these articles, I believe today, tomorrow, you're going to find that there's probably double that. It's involved with investment anyway. It says Al-Sabah welcomed the development road project adopted by Iraq and stressed that any growth or development that comes or occurs in Iraq represents growth, renaissance with Kuwait and vice versa, so it's between the two. It says the Iraqi president and the Kuwait crown prince expressed their keenness on the necessity for Iraq and Kuwait to have an effective role in the region, to intensify continuous meetings and setting common visions, and so forth. Basically, these guys are looking at getting involved again in a renaissance. They're going to rebuild. That's what you do in a renaissance. Out with the old, in with the new. Oil minister, consultant will be appointed within 60 days to recalculate the amount of crude oil in the Kurdistan region. It says they're talking about here that the Deputy Prime Minister of Energy Affairs, Minister of Oil, head of the Finance Committee, Council of Representatives, all of these folks, Parliamentary Committee, were meeting, and they held discussions talking about the issue of relationship between the Ministry of Kurdistan region regarding the oil fields, the delivery of production, and the resumption of exports via Cyan. Okay, so they go on to talk about the ministries are keen to cooperate with legislative authority to achieve what achieves the development of the oil industry and economic development in the country. This meeting aims to discuss common issues related to the oil ministry, finance committee, especially the resumption. I like that part, you guys. The resumption of oil exports from Kurdistan via the Turkish port of Cyan. It says the revenues of these exported quantities will be deposited in a special account, which the sums of money will be deducted to pay the wages for producing these quantities in companies, and these sums will be paid as an advance. That's interesting, you guys. So they're going to hammer out the contractors that need to get paid, and they're going to pay them in advance for their work. Okay, so it says, in light of this agreement that will be signed with the consultant, the amount of crude oil produced in the region by oil companies will be recalculated, and the remaining revenues will go to the federal state budget. So it sounds like the big companies, the big boys got together and said, we need to figure this out and figure out something that's equitable, and I think they did, and I think they will, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see that anytime, or it's already underway. It says here the Ministry of Natural Resources. It says, and a conclusion was reached. So a conclusion was reached on the necessity of adapting contracts for that oil production in the region in line with the Constitution, considering the region's contracts as production sharing contracts and non-profit sharing. So they've got it hammered out. This guy, Al Tawani, continues, there's a desire for both parties to amend and adapt these contracts. Until the contracts are legally adapted, there must be a transitional phase that everyone deals with so that the oil can be exported from the region through the port of Cyan. Here it says the cabinet's decision. So there was the cabinets, it's the COM. They have a decision to adapt the situation of importance and the coordination between the federal oil ministries and the natural resource ministries in the region, and agreeing on the consultant to determine the cost of production and the transportation of crude oil. I believe that they have a transport cost of about an extraction cost, I think it is, costs and services of about $16 a barrel. This article is another one of the review process. It says that the government sends an amendment to the budget that resolves the differences with the region, and details are on the table of the Ministry of Oil and Parliamentary Finance. So there was an amendment to the budget, 2024, the tripartite budget, right? But we're in the year 2024. Okay. The Finance Committee Parliament said that it seeks to resolve the oil disputes between Baghdad and Kurdistan region in conjunction with government amendment to the budget law. Amendment to the budget law. Related to this file, in addition to achieving a final agreement to resume oil exports via Turkey, these guys are losing billions, hundreds of millions of dollars over a year. The amount of oil and the cost that has been lost is going to be intense. Okay, so they got to via Turkey. Here it says that the Finance Committee, Al Tawani, held an expanded technical meeting with the Deputy Minister for Energy Affairs, etc., Minister of Oil, and his staff. What they had met with and they talked about was, according to the statement, which was reviewed the latest developments and understandings to the end of oil dispute between the Kurdistan region and most prominent technical obstacles, coinciding with the arrival of a draft amendment proposed to the budget law sent by the government to Parliament for voting, which relates to addressing this file. So they had a draft, and it sounds like we're going to find out that the COM already had it and probably agreed and approved it. And here they're telling us that the Parliament for voting. So these guys are a little bit, sometimes things happen faster than you think. So pay attention to that. And if not, we're going to watch and see how it plays out. Atwani says the meeting comes within the framework of the Finance Committee's ongoing efforts to resolve the oil dispute with Baghdad and Erbil, and its continuation as its ongoing discussions in the Central Bank and the Kurdistan Regional Government in addressing outstanding issues in accordance with the Constitution. So they're pretty big on the Constitution, and we all know that the citizens' needs are part of the Constitution. And it says it's moving forward towards a final agreement to resume that export of oil to the Turkish pipeline. It says that the proposed amendment to the budget law is an important step towards ending the oil dispute according to the comprehensive national vision, and noting that the halt in the region's oil exports causes huge financial losses for Iraq, like I just mentioned. So at the end of the day, it says these understandings were based on what the Finance Committee delegation agreed upon in the Kurdistan regional government during their recent visit to Erbil, which is the basic principles that cannot be ignored, including adopting the region's oil contracts in the Iraqi constitution and converting them from production sharing formula to a profit sharing formula. They also talked about procedures and formulas in other places too. But in addition to reviewing the prices of production costs to be close to their counterparts in the center and south, and that their values be determined by a neutral, competent international body. So they're going to have somebody in there hammering it out, trying to get everybody fair, level playing field, and it's fascinating coming to fruition. I love it. And then as far as the census was concerned, Article 140 President of Republic Abdul Latif Rashid confirms that the results of the general population census will not affect Article 140 of the Constitution. It will have no impact on Article 140. So just let that one go. But here we go. We're going to get into a few things that's even more recent and up to date. There's an article, I think it's this morning, Al-Alaq discusses with his Turkish counterpart the launch of a new mechanism for trade transfers between the two countries. I did some research on trade transfers, you guys. That's cross-border payments. That's basically doing things that would be considered having to have international compliance, which international standards, and Article 8 compliance with the IMF. Cross-border payments, that's what they're talking about. Governor of the central bank, Al-Alaq, says accompanying delegation met with his counterpart and the governor of the central bank of Turkey. It says the launch of a new direct mechanisms for trade transfers between Iraq and Turkey, making the beginning of a new stage in strengthening banking relations between the two neighboring countries. It goes on to say the cooperation in the field of settlements for Iraqi card users in Turkey, and urged Turkish banks to open accounts for Iraqi banks to expand channels of financing the imports of goods and services from neighboring countries. So the Turkish central bank supports the steps of the Iraqi central bank in supporting or organizing financial operations between these two countries, which contributes to facilitating commercial transactions. Commercial transactions between the two currencies, and we already heard that. They already talked about the banking, going to be doing other foreign currencies. There you have it. Well, we've already known all that stuff, but they're just reiterating some of this stuff or getting a little more in depth with it. Okay, so the governor, Al-Alaq, says the need to expand the fruitful trade operations or options between the two countries, especially now in the banking sector. Basically, you guys, the cross-border payments is going to be going on for commercial transactions. They have a newly launched mechanism to facilitate the cross-border transactions. It's a good sign. It's a good sign, you guys. If you look up what those transactions are, they're real and they are international. So, here's another one. Member of the Democratic Party resolving the oil dispute with producing companies in the region very soon, or in Iraq. He's like, well, what's that mean? but hey, I read the news. But it goes on to the Democrat Party, Mandalawi, oil dispute, Kurdistan region, close to being resolved. Basically here it says, it goes, there are multiple files, especially the oil file, which is very important as Iraq is losing millions of dollars as a result of the halt in the region's oil. That's the Turkish pipeline. So there are good agreements within the Turkish side. Perhaps the problem now is limited to the companies contracted to extract the region's oil, and I believe that one of all Sudani's efforts is to resolve it quickly. I have a feeling they already kind of suggest that al-Sudani may have done that while he was in Kurdistan region yesterday and the day before, or even yesterday and today. He's back now, but the problem will be resolved. Remaining differences between the central and the central bank or central governments is going to be probably resolved quickly. So that's pretty cool. Baghdad discussing resuming the oil. Another article. It is the Minister of Oil talking with the Parliamentary Finance Committee, and again this gentleman by the name of Atwan Al-Atwani to discuss resuming oil exports from the Kurdistan region through the Turkey pipeline, which is called the ITP. It says that revenues will be replaced or will be placed in a special account with deductions for production costs. It says here that within about 60 days, a jointly approved consultant will reassess production costs. So that's not, we're waiting for the gentleman or anybody to do it. It said it'll be done again. So there'll be an ongoing. And revenues will flow to the federal budget, of course. Both the federal and regional authorities aim to align production contracts with the Constitution. Again, that's when they say the Constitution, a lot of times they mean in benefit of the citizens. At least you hope so. Okay, marking a transitional phase until legal adjustments are completed. So here's this thing about the cabinet. It says the Iraqi cabinet last week approved an amendment to the budget. And that's one of the things that we were talking about, and we're going to get into that because I had a little bit of confusion today regarding 2023 and Rashid and ratifying the budget. Well, that got done, you guys, ratified budget in 2023, and then again in November 2024, but for different reasons, okay? But hey, when translations, articles, 2 or 3 at a time, they're difficult sometimes, especially when the fine print with my glasses, I can't always see dates that are tucked up in the right-hand side of the corners. So I just had a little bit of a confusion, but I hammered it out and I reposted my post in Patreon. You guys can go in there and read that. I made some comments in Discord to let you know that I was, confusion. I'm human. So anyway, I'll move on from that. It says here that the cabinet last week approved an amendment to the budget, which is the budget law, compensating Kurdistan regional government for production, transportation costs of oil produced in the region and received by the state oil company called SOMO. It says that the Federal Ministry of Finance will compensate these costs in advance at a rate of $16 a barrel. And that's what also Donnie has been working on. And basically it says that the budget law, Article 12 of the budget law, there could be sufficient scope in the current wording. So in other words, it could cover the previous requests related to the commercial terms and the surety of payments for past and future exports through that pipeline. So basically, good stuff. It says they approved an amendment for the Article 12 budget law. They believe it has sufficient language and scope, satisfactory for the KRG and Baghdad to start flowing oil. And I would assume that's because they have that amendment satisfied. And if that's what Rashid on November 6th did and ratified that budget like he did back in 2023, there comes a time where the judiciary wants the facts so they could publish it and talk to the people about it. And that's what I believe is at the table. And that happened, it's published that it happened on November 6th, that Rashid did that. So anyway, we'll see how that turns out. Again, if that's accurate. The Prime Minister directs continuous communication between the Ministry of Oil and the Shell Oil Company. Look, you guys, these are international companies talking about this. Sudani is talking about it. Shell's Executive Vice President, his name's Peter Costello, and the company's director in Iraq and the Emirates. A lot of big names. During the meeting, aspects of cooperation with the company in the field of energy. They're talking about progress, major projects in the field of extraction. Yeah, it's just, the value of oil, producing gas, condensate, they're talking about it all. The government's interest in cooperating with major international oil companies, they're happy to attract these investments, energy sector, develop it, especially the gas and clean energy. And what else are they looking to do? Modernizing the infrastructure of the economic sectors of the country. Okay, so it says communication between the Ministry of Oil and Shell Company have achieved projects that serve and are consistent with the requirements of the economic development and the government's approach to expanding revenues within the oil sector and its investments. Basically, the Development Road Project, you guys, through Iraq and Turkey, launching mechanisms for cross-border transfers. The stage is set for more companies to come on in, commercial business, freedom of capital movement. All of that stuff is happening right in front of us right now. So back to Turkey, okay? I know we went over this just a little bit, but I'm going to touch on it again. The central bank governor urges Turkey to open accounts for the Iraqi banks. Here it says, this gentleman says, the two parties discussed the launch, so they did it, of a new direct mechanisms for trade transfers between Iraq and Turkey, marking the beginning of a new phase in strengthening bank cooperations, relations, and between two neighboring countries. Cooperation in the field of settlements for users of Iraqi cards, so electronic cards. So in other words, if you're in Turkey or in Iraq, you can swipe a card and it'll work. International cross-border payments. That's huge. Okay? And They urge Turkish banks to open more accounts for Iraqi banks to expand financing channels for importing goods, commercial, right, and services from neighboring Turkey. So the Turkish Central Bank supports these steps, again, along with the Central Bank of Iraq, for regulating financial operations between the two countries. And what does it do? It contributes to facilitating commercial transactions. I don't know if you guys can get that clear enough, but that's talking about international trade. And that's what we're waiting for. And we believe that at some point they're going to have an international calculation and a Forex traded currency. That's it. I think it's great. And here there's an article, Spain confirms a cooperation with Iraq to establish the Basra Sharm al-Sheikh Railway. So it's huge. It says Thursday there's strong support for Iraq's return to the World Trade Organization. We haven't heard about this in a little while, but here it is. Spain's looking for Iraq's return to the World Trade Organization. And what are they doing? They're talking about cooperation with Iraq and her railways and other fields and joint projects. So here toward the end, she explains that there are agreements to train Iraqis. So they're going to train the employees and other agreements that facilitate this aspect. But again, quote, we strongly support and promote Iraq's return to the World Trade Organization, and we seek to do so. I think that's awesome, you guys. Definitely. And let's see, getting ready to close it down. But the Minister of Oil discusses with the companies the Plus DSS and XRG, their joint cooperation to develop the Iraqi oil sector. I haven't really heard of these companies. This is the first time I've ever heard of them before. But basically, the Prime Minister's Energy Affairs Ministry of Oil, Hayyan Abdul Fani al-Sawad, discussed with the delegation these two companies' joint cooperation to develop the Iraqi sector. And the delegation of the company, DSS, included company directors from Qatar, Kuwait, Oman, the Anthony Becerra, and the company's president in the Middle East, Hamad Sahib, while the delegation of the company Exergy included the company's chairman, board of directors, etc., partnering with a gentleman by the name of Ali Akbar. So the statement basically explains that during the meeting, these joint cooperations was discussed about oil and gas. Okay, what is al-Sudani? Why was he in Kurdistan region? Oil and gas. So these guys are knocking it out of the park. Last thing I want to say today is that Iraq's 2024 budget is an article that comes out where some of the confusion is. I'm not going to get into 2023 and all that, but the bottom line is President of Iraq, Abdul Latif Rashid, ratified the country's federal budget on November 6, 2024. That's what we have. That's what the translation says. Following its approval of the Iraqi parliament in the month. So it goes on talking about development projects aimed at supporting lower income for the citizens, etc. Okay, so basically, if it goes hand in hand, the way it works out with the president in time frames because of the Constitution and the Ministry of Justice, there's some time frames and constraints. So if in fact it took 3, 4, 5 days or 7 to 10 days to have it published, even if it's 15 days, it doesn't really matter to me in the sense that it means that back on the 6th, today's the 14th, and it tends to think that within days that these guys are going to do something, but that's because they use terminology that's always vague. But anyway, with Rashid having said that on the 6th, and they didn't publish it till today, it seems like they want to keep it kind of quiet. Kind of wild. But anyway, it's good. I hope you guys kind of enjoyed this. I know it was a little bit longer than I anticipated, but I went as quick as I could because we had so much information that was packed. And I appreciate everybody being with us. Thank you for being wonderful patrons and Patreon. And the Discord chat room has been on fire. Thank you guys very much. Thank you all for your support, and thank you for your understanding. Sometimes confusion can be scary for some people. It's scary for me because it's a lot of work to make sure that I have everything right. But we work at it our best, and again, sorry for any confusion today. But hey, enjoy your day. And if you like the content and you like what we offer, hit the like button, subscribe. And again, your guys' donations helping us keep the wheels and cogs moving so we can bring you guys this information. Always appreciated. Zelle, Venmo, PayPal. They help. So thank you very much. Once again, guys, don't forget to hit that like button if you like this content. Subscribe to the channel or join us at the Militia Man and Crew Patreon community for even more exclusive content. You can also donate to this channel by hitting the links in the banner to help keep this page up and running. Your generous support is greatly appreciated, as always. Much, much appreciated. Thank you so much and have a great day.